Ladies and gents, welcome back. Special live stream this evening. I have a special guest, Maxime Bernier. He's the leader of the PPC party and the founder. And I brought Maxime on here to talk about the state of politics here in Canada. And we've been seeing a lot of things. I mean, a lot more people are becoming active, especially after this pandemic that we went through for 2 years. A convoy that took place in Ottawa. A lot of people got to know who you were because of that. And so many more people are becoming active. So before we get into too much, I want to know a little bit about Maxime. And can I call you Max or Maxime? Which would you prefer?
Yeah, you can call me Max. It's perfect.
Okay, Max, I want to know a little bit more about you. So I'm a tradesman. I work as an auto mechanic. I've been taking up this YouTube thing as a part-time gig. It's mostly because I'm just interested, and I wanna affect change here in Canada. And the question here is, how do we go forward? How did you get your start into politics, and what drove you into the realm? Because it's a dirty business, and I'd rather not be a part. I'd rather just pull wrenches and get my hands dirty instead of my conscience and my soul dirty.
Yeah, but I believe that we have the same goal. We want to have a better country, and that's why I decided in 2006 to, if I can express myself like that, to jump into politics. Before that, at 43 years old, before that, I worked in the private sector in Montreal, in the financial sector. I was VP of an insurance corporation, VP of a bank. And in 2006, I've met Stephen Harper. And at that time, Mr. Harper was the leader of the opposition, and he was looking for ideas for having more support in Quebec. And also he was looking for some candidates. And I had a dinner with him in Montreal. And I told him at that time, if you want to have support in Quebec, you must say to the Quebecers that you will respect our constitution. You won't interfere into provincial jurisdiction. And that's important. That's important for Quebecers, but by doing that also, Alberta and other provinces would be happy. So, and I think he appreciated that. And I said also, lower the taxes, having a smaller government in Ottawa, that would be great. And he delivered a speech in September or October 2005 about that. And my meeting with him was in 2005, sorry. And so he delivered a speech about that. He asked me to be a candidate, and I decided to go back in both. I was born there. My dad worked over there, and my dad was an MP over there for 13 years under Brian Mulroney. Mm-hmm. And so I was elected. And I told him at that time that I wanted to be in politics to fight for individual freedom and personal responsibility, to fight for less government, more free markets. And I was industry minister, and I was pleased to do a big reform, deregulation in the telecom industry. And because of that deregulation, prices went down for cell phone. So that was a big reform. And after that, foreign affairs. And after that, I was minister for small business and tourism. And I did the leadership also in 2017. I was a candidate for the leadership contest in 2017. I didn't win with 49% of the vote. And after that, I tried to work with the establishment of the Conservative Party after my loss in the leadership for 13 months. And at that time, the leader, Andrew Scheer, told me, Maxime, you have great ideas. And we won't take any of your ideas for the next electoral platform for the Conservative Party. And the election was in 2019. And that's why I resigned. And I said the Conservative Party of Canada is intellectually and morally corrupt because they're not conservative. They just have the name conservative, and then speaking not about the right ideas for the country, but about what is popular. And so, we are living in a socialist era, and Scheer wanted to be elected. He went to the left, and we created the People's Party in 2018. And I believe that was the best decision in my political life. I'm very happy with that. And since that time, the party is growing, and we'll see what will happen at the next general election.
Well, you saved me a lot of time of asking why it was you left, because you just answered that there. Just a second, I have to fix an audio issue. I'm hoping that this fixes it and that the audio issue goes away. We just had a bit of a clipping thing going on there. So here's the big question that a lot of people are asking, though. So many people like where you're going with your politics. People like the platform that you're bringing forward. And then there's the other half of conservatives that are looking at it like, well, we just need to pull the conservatives back over into conservatism. That's how we'll win. So there's the two sides of things, right? There's the people that are saying, come on, we need a strategy. It's the circular voting, right? Everyone gets mad at the conservatives, so they vote for liberals, and then everyone gets mad at the liberals and vote for the conservatives. We have this cycle. And I understand you're trying to break the cycle. But the question a lot of people have on their minds are you going to be vote splitting? Are you going to be taking votes away from conservatives and just handing Justin Trudeau another victory, maybe in a minority, but still being the Prime Minister of Canada kind of thing?
No. I will answer that first by saying that when you're speaking about splitting the vote, you think that 100% of our supporters are coming from the Conservative Party of Canada, and that's not the case. Maybe a third of them, and another third from the Green, the NDP, and the Liberals, and another third from people who never voted at the federal level. So, and these people are coming because we are a smart, populist political party with common sense ideas. And I'm saying smart, it's important because we are doing politics differently, and we are giving another political offer to Canadians. Mm-hmm. We are not doing any polling and focus group. We are doing politics based on ideas, based on 4 principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And if it's not popular, or if it's not politically correct, we will speak about an idea. Like during COVID-19, it was not popular in March 2020 to say that every business is essential. We must reopen the economy. We must protect the most vulnerable. We must respect the freedom of choice for everybody. And, my body, my choice. And I was doing rallies. It was not popular. But we know that we had the best vision for this country, the best idea based on science. So we spoke, when I'm saying we, me, myself, and the freedom fighters across the country, the truckers, and we were able to move the public opinion, to shift the public opinion, because these establishment politicians like Poilievre, like Trudeau, they're doing politics based on survey and focus group. So, Pierre Poilievre won't tell you what is right for the country. He will tell you what is popular. And so they're doing politics like that. So because we were able to move the public opinion, and in February, after the Freedom Convoy, we had not a majority, maybe 45% of the population on our side. So for Poilievre, it was not risky to speak for freedom and to be on the side of the truckers. Because of all that work, all these rallies in small towns and big cities that we did across the country. And I want to thank all these freedom fighters. So it's the tiny minority that move the population, and we won that debate. And it took us 2 years, but we were able. So I'm just telling you that the conservative, like the liberals, are doing politics based on survey. For us, it's not that. We have strong ideas, and if they're not popular, it's a challenge for us. We believe that the more we speak about it, the more popular it would become. Speaking about splitting the vote. So I believe, and like you, and like more and more people in this country, we want to get rid of Justin Trudeau at the next election. Mm-hmm. And I believe that it will happen. and maybe Polyev will be prime minister with a minority government. But we're going to be there because I know Polyev will go a little bit to the left, maybe not like O'Toole did, but it will. We want to keep him honest and in the right direction. So we can be like the NDP of the right. As you know, the NDP is pushing the Liberal to the left, and now we have a socialist government in Ottawa. So we can do that with a couple of candidates elected. If there is a minority government, we will support Polyev when Polyev would be a real conservative. If he's not a real conservative, we won't support him. So I believe that we can be the kind of insurance policy for conservative, being sure that Polyev won't go to the left when he'll be elected, because it's not popular to speak for freedom and less government these days.
Right. So you're saying that you want to keep people to their principles, and I like that concept, and I think that's where a lot of people resonated with you when they saw you go out for the trucker convoy. Is like, okay, this guy's principled. He'll actually go out and speak to them when every other politician hid in their offices and just observed it from their windows. You were out there and you were talking with the people. Now, go for it.
And I just want to add about that. I understand these establishment politicians that didn't want to be there because fear and propaganda was very efficient and people wanted more security. So people agreed with lockdowns and stay-at-home orders because of that propaganda and that fear. And now at that time, they wanted security. But 2 years later, we know the truth and people are coming. So these politicians, and that was not only in Ottawa, in every province, the opposition did not oppose. We didn't have any opposition in Parliament in Ottawa and at the provincial legislatures. Because if you are in the opposition, your goal is to be in government and you don't want to speak against the majority of Canadians. And that's why Polyev and everybody were silent at that time, because they wanted to be in government. But for us, we want to educate people, to inform people, and that was the case for COVID-19. But it's the case also like for climate change. We won't sign the Paris Accord. It's not popular to say that today. O'Toole and the Conservative will be with the Paris Accord. We will withdraw like Trump did from the Paris Accord. Mm-hmm. But Polyev won't impose a carbon tax, but he will impose more regulations to try to achieve the Paris Accord goals.
So that leads me into a good question here. So yeah. I was going to talk about something else, but you got into the ecology and whatever, the environmental movement. We on the channel like to call them environmental patients, because some of them go so far that it's just crazy. You can't sacrifice your country's entire economy in order to go after ecology issues. I mean, obviously those things are important. Now we have an economy. I'm a mechanic, so we have an economy where we're going to be moving into a time where they're mandating that cars have to be 100% electric after a certain period of time. We all know that that's not feasible. And at some point, government's going to have to walk that back. But so there's a fine line that I think we must walk in the future, where it's going to be like kind of a mixed bag when it comes to oil and gas and then, electric cars and whatnot. What they're talking about is switching to this because it's so clean. But we see around the world cobalt being mined, and it's terrible. It's horrible on the environment. It's horrible for the people where they mine it. It's unethical. Lithium mining around the world. So how do we balance that? How do we appease to environmentalists that are concerned about the environment, but also move towards this mixed economy with oil, gas, LNG, electric vehicles, and do it in a way that's ethical and good for our economy?
Yes, I'm not against the green energy electric cars, but what I don't like, I don't want the government to push people to go that way. It must be the free markets, and if they can build an electric car without any subsidies, that would be competitive. Good, but now the government is subsidizing, consumers to buy electric cars, and we are broke. We cannot do that. So you're right about saying oil and gas will be there and will be there for the future. So that's why I'm not shy to say that there's no climate emergency, and we must produce respecting the environment. But all these crazy goals in the Paris Accord, and you're right, in some countries they're saying, in 2050 we don't want to see any cars with by any other car than only the electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
So it may happen. If it happened with the free market, okay. But I don't want us to change everything, our standard of living, for that, because the planet is not in danger. It is not. There's no climate emergency. Let's work and being sure that people will have a high standard of living. And when you increase the standard of living, people are more responsible and they can respect the environment. Look here in the West versus in countries in Asia. Because we are a rich country, we can afford to have more restrictions and being more respectful for the environment. But in Asia, that's not the case. So we need to have this country and everybody to be richer, and like that, they will have the means to take care of the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always happening. So let's not impose anything on our growth. And that's what is happening right now.
So how do we steer in the future? So at the moment we have so many foreign investors coming in, and this is a big fear for a lot of Canadians. Foreign investors coming in, taking up resources. I believe it's Nestle came in, and they have water rights, like incredible water rights. They're pulling water out of our country. There's a ton of natural resources. People are afraid of India, China coming in, usurping and purchasing up a lot of our crown land or resources that we have. And how do we mitigate that? How do we stop that moving forward with the legislation that's been put forward in the past 30, 40 years?
Yeah, we have a good legislation in Ottawa called the Investment Canada Act. And when there's a country or a state-owned corporation that wants to buy some of our natural resources, there's a review under that act, and we must decide if it's for the benefit of our country. And right now, you're right by saying the Trudeau government is allowing China to buy some of our natural resources. We are a sovereign country. We can stop that. We don't have to pass a new legislation. There's a legislation there. And when we do the investigation about one investment, it must be for the benefit of our country. And yes, natural resources are one of many of our wealth in our country. It's because of our natural resources that we are the country that we are right now. And we must exploit that. Oil and gas and all our natural resources that we have all across the country. And we want to promote that. But you're absolutely right. That legislation must be respected, and we must be a strong investigation when we have a foreign investment in this country. And that's not happening right now under the Trudeau government.
And how do we steer investors to come into Canada? In recent times, especially with the Emergencies Act being declared, that became almost like a regime in uncertainty for investors. We've had since then David Lametti say in Canada, no one has fundamentally a right to private property. You could be labeled oligarch of a bad guy and be told your property's gone. Sorry, not sorry. We're taking it from you. This creates a massive financial disincentive for investors to come into our country. How do we incentivize people to come in and invest in businesses that already exist here and bring capital, the much needed capital we need to move forward in this economy?
You're absolutely right about that. And actually, yesterday I was in Toronto. I had meetings with business entrepreneurs, and they told me that they have nice project to invest here in Canada, but they want to wait. And some of them told me, Maxime, for me, I will reinvest. I'm going back in the US and I will invest over there. Yeah, the climate is not right for investment. coming from Canadians or from foreign investors because of that government. And you're absolutely right. When Trudeau decided to invoke the Emergencies Act, and when he decided also to freeze bank accounts, I don't know, I cannot tell you how many mainstream media I did in Europe. I was, with a German mainstream TV, with a French mainstream TV, speaking about that. They didn't understand what Trudeau did. And, you're doing that in an authoritarian country, not in a free, supposed to be free and democratic country like Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So what he did, destroy, yes, the confidence coming from investors to invest in Canada and also Canadian investors. So what you need to do, you need to just first, yes, get rid of Justin Trudeau and welcoming foreign investment like we did. This country has been built by foreign investment coming from UK, coming from the US 100 years ago. So yes, we must be open to foreign investment. And at the same time, we are a sovereign country. We must be sure to have the same rules for foreigners than for Canadians. And it's not the case. So you change that. You must have a budget that will be pro-investment. And if you have a pro-investment budget, you need to balance the budget. You need to cut taxes to individuals and also to corporations. You need to have less regulations. If you want to invest in the oil and gas industry right now, you can't. There's too many regulations. It will take years to build the pipelines, and that's part of our proposal. We want to streamline the process to invest in the oil and gas industry and in other industries. So there's a lot of things that we can do, but start balancing the budget, lower taxes, less regulation, open to free market. And we need to rebuild the reputation of our country. Trudeau destroy our reputation. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, understood. And you have a good reputation for being consistent with a lot of the topics that you have. You have principles, you come forward with those. Now, I want to talk about something that you voted on years ago. You voted on the Bill C-16, and you ended up reversing your position on that one. And this is the one that, for the audience that doesn't know about this is the Bill C-16, which in it, Jordan Peterson became famous for criticizing this one on the grounds that it has compelled speech within the legislation. I only just found out recently that this was something when you were a conservative and you voted on.
Yeah.
What happened there? How did you get? Was that your opinion to vote on it, or did you get swindled? Let me know. Like what was it?
Yeah. So at that time, I was a conservative MP, part of the caucus, and every Wednesday we have a briefing in the caucus about the legislations and the position of the party. So in our caucus, we had a discussion about that bill, and the briefing that we had coming from the leadership of the Conservative Party at that time was, it's okay, that's not any danger for compelled speech and blah, blah. And so I voted for that bill, knowing that, that must be the best thing to do. But 2 days after that vote, somebody still told me, Maxime, you did a big mistake. Look, that if you read this section with the other section and you put that together with the other bill that the Senate voted, put all that together, and yes, that can be a speech that would compel speech. And he said, you must speak with one person about that, Jordan Peterson. So I called Jordan Peterson, and we had a good discussion. And, I realized that I did a mistake. But, when you voted, you cannot go back. It's done. But what I did, I spoke with some of my conservative colleagues at the Senate, conservative senators, and I tried to brief them about that and telling them, you must not vote for that bill. I did a mistake in the House, but actually the bill passed. And I believe that Jordan Peterson was right and I was wrong. But when you do a mistake, you need to go ahead and tell the truth. And yes, at that time, I did a mistake, and and I'm fighting against that since then.
Well, I have a tradition on this channel. If I make a mistake, I'll make a video right away and just own up to it. I think that's important. I think it's important that people can own up to the mistakes that they make. But this spells to it really leads to a bigger problem in Ottawa, and that's that people aren't taking the time to really read and consider these bills. They're told by their parties, this is what you should be voting for. Is there a solution to that? Is there a way we can have maybe simpler bills that are like streamline things so it's you can't sneak things in like that, like compelled speech in a bill that's supposed to be about, you know, just treating people okay? Well, I don't know. I don't even know what the bill was originally for.
Absolutely. You know, when we were in government, we try to have bill that will be simple and plain English. And so now with the Liberals, you know, that's not important for them. And yes, I was industry minister and I tabled bills in the House, and I briefed my colleagues and Canadians about these bills. And I always said to my colleagues and conservative MPs, you know, read the bill, read it. It's easy. It will take maybe an hour. But if you have questions, ask me, my team, we will answer that. And yes, sometimes some MPs are voting without reading the bill. But, you know, that's their responsibility to try to read it and understand it. What you can do, first of all, I think the answer to that would be to have fewer legislation. You know, at the end of every session, the government is always saying, you know, very proud, we tabled, I don't know, 25 bill, and we were able to pass 25 bill, and that's great. I know that's not so great, because when you have more and more legislation, you are usually you will have more civil servant, you'll have more bureaucrats in line with the bill. It would be costly, and I want to have fewer bills. I think our goal must be to abolish some legislations and having fewer. The goal must not be always there's a problem in the society and we must table a bill to solve that. No, that's why we at the PPC, we believe in people. You know, you can do good things and bad things, but you must be responsible of your actions. The government must not always there to pass a legislation because somebody did something wrong. No, that's life. There's risk in life, and the government cannot be always there. But in the mind of politicians, if you're seeing something in the news at night and you want to act on it, something happened, and you want to act on it and show to Canadians that you are at the top of your game, and yes, I will speak about it, bring a legislation. But the majority of the time, you don't need a legislation. But the modern governments think that, you know, every solution must pass by a legislation, and that's why you have a bigger and a bigger and a bigger government. Actually, Polyev just said in the National Post this week that, you know, he wants to freeze the budget. And you know, no more spending. If one of his ministers,
we need much less spending. Sorry.
Yes, he said if one of my minister came with a solution and that will need more spending, he will have to cut the same amount. So like that, the budget won't increase. But the problem is the budget is too big right now.
It's already too big.
You must cut. You must not keep the budget at that level. Look, we cannot sustain that. No. But Polyev doesn't want to speak about cutting the budget because the next question is, what will you cut? And so he will have to answer. And answering that question, some people won't be happy. And he wants to please
the majority. It's always the case. Somebody's not going to be happy in a budget cut like that. But you're talking about bigger and bigger government. There's one big thing that a lot of people around Canada are worried about with big government, and that's the big government coming and taking your property. And this is coming in the way of Trudeau's gun grab. He wants to come in. Yeah. He's made
he did it.
He's made I think it was 1,500 different firearms across Canada, just different models over his term. He's made them prohibited.
Illegal.
Yeah, illegal. And then now they're talking about coming around and knocking on doors. There's a lot of provinces that are saying, nope, forget it. You're not coming in. We don't want you. And you're not going to do that here. Also, he also just put a freeze on handguns that makes handguns essentially anyone who owns them, they can't pass them down to their family. They have to destroy them when they're your grandfather dies and his firearms are left behind. What's your party's position on firearms and ownership?
It's simple. We will repeal all that, and we will change. Right now, you're right. Trudeau can decide by decree, not passing a legislation. After a cabinet meeting, he will start his cabinet meeting Wednesday at 9:00. At 12, that will be the end of the cabinet meeting, and he will be able to have a new decree and saying, what I'm doing with firearms. It must be in the legislation. It must be, Trudeau or the RCMP must not have the power to change, now your gun is illegal and you don't own your gun anymore. You have to give that to the state because your gun looked very scary. No, it must be in the legislation. We'll do that. And we need to fight the real criminals. So for us, we will repeal all that and go back to the system that we had. And we believe that gun owners are law-abiding, and we must not put resources to try to limit them in their sport. There's a lot, hunters, recreational shooters. They have the right when they have a license. And what we want to do, we want to give them one life license, and with all the courses that they have to do, and also the investigation by the RCMP. Actually, personally, I will take that course next year, and I want to be able to own a gun, so I will take that course. But we have a good process, and we must follow that process. When you have the right to have a gun, that's it. You must have the right to own guns in our country. So we are the only party that has a strong position, and we will respect the property rights of gun owners. And you can go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, read our gun policy. It's 2 pages. You'll see everything is there. And I'm not afraid to speak about that. Maybe some people living in big cities won't like it.
I would honestly agree with you going to the firearm safety course. I think everyone should go to, even if you don't want to own guns, you should take a safety course on firearms, and everyone should understand firearm safety. I think it should be requisite in schools. I think people should just understand safety around tools, and firearms are no different than any other tool. People need to have safety in regards to that. So I recommend doing it. You'll never regret it. Absolutely. But I don't want to take up too much of your time, Maxime. I know you're pretty busy. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before I let you go here?
But first, I want to thank you, and I appreciate what you're doing, common sense and speaking with Canadians, and, alternative media, you guys, YouTubers, and people like you. People are looking at you to find another way to have their news, because more and more people don't believe anymore in the mainstream media. They don't have the same credibility that they had 20 years ago. And, that's good what you're doing. I appreciate that. And thank you very much for giving me that opportunity to be with you. And maybe another time we can have another discussion on other subject.
I just
want to let you know, if your people want to know more about the PPC, they can go on the website, but also they can follow me on Twitter, on Rumble, YouTube, Instagram. I try to be very active on social media. Actually, this weekend, I'll be 3 days on the road in Northern Ontario, Timmins, and other cities over there. So go on the website if you want to come at one of our meet and greet. You'll be welcome.
If you come out west, you got to hit me up on Twitter, because I'll come meet you. If you come to the West Coast, I'm in BC, so let me know. Absolutely.
Oh, it's very nice over there.
It's beautiful
And
BC. That's why
I
they call it
was,
that.
yeah, I was there last summer, but I'll go back. So let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in and joining us. Even though I had a bit of audio issues here, everything still went smooth and really appreciate it. Thanks again.